Good evening to all the distinguished dignitaries, respected members of the profession, and the participants joining us from across the SAFA region. On behalf of the Members in Practice Committee of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the SAFA SMP Committee, I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you to this special webinar, Bridging the Mindset Gap. Stay courteous, stay relevant, a growth mindset for building and scaling CA practices and creating mentorship led learning cultures in CA firms. This thought provoking session has been conceptualized to address a key challenge facing professionals today: the mindset gap, traditional practice models, and the evolving expectations of the modern professional services. In today's dynamic environment, success is professional practice is not merely about technical competence. It requires courteously adaptability, innovation, collaboration, and mentorship. Through today's webinar, we aim to explore how chartered accountants can develop growth mindset, scalable practice, professional practices, learning organizations with CA firms, mentorship driven cultures that empower the next generation of professionals. It's now my great privilege to welcome the SAFA leadership, CA Mr. Mohammad Himayun Kabir sir, President SAFA, and CA Praveen Kumar Jha sir, Vice President SAFA. It's now my great privilege to introduce the distinguished guest. We are equally privileged to have us CA Praveen Kumar Jha, Vice President of SAFA. CA Jha is an immediate past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nepal and has served the profession in multiple leadership roles within ICA and as well as SAFA. With over 25 years of professional experience, he is a senior partner in a reputed chartered accountancy firm in Nepal. His experience spans statutory audits, due diligence reviews, internal audits, strategic advisory, risk assessment, and governance. He has also served as a board member of the SEBI of Nepal, the regulator of capital markets in the country. His vast experience and regional leadership continue to strengthen collaboration among accountancy bodies in South Asia. We extend a very warm welcome to CA Praveen Kumar Jha sir. Sir, I would request to please give your theme address. Over to you.
Thank you, and namaskar to everybody. Good afternoon and welcome. My sincere greetings to the SAFA President, President and Vice President of ICAI, Committee Chair and members of SAFA SMP Committee, and ICAI's Committee of Members in Practice, speakers for the webinar, and to everyone attending this webinar. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all. Firstly, I would like to recognize and send across my admiration to the committee chair, members, and all the support team of ICA and SAFA Secretariat for organizing this mindset series, changing mindset series on a weekly basis. The theme of webinar today intends to talk about staying curious and staying relevant, and to talk about mentorship-led learning cultures in CA firms. Our CA courses are designed based on international education standards, and they require our students to go for mandatory practical training, and all of us are aware of it. There are immense benefits that we can avail by getting a chance to apply our theoretical knowledge in a real situation as part of pursuing our CA degrees. The course is structured in such a way that all of us are required to become curious. So being curious is a skill set that all of us already possess. In today's world of AI, where it has already impacted our work a great deal and is going to impact us more in coming days for sure, being curious and being able to use AI as a helping tool is something that cannot be ignored. Else, if we don't do it, we shall be irrelevant soon. I believe reminding all of us to remain curious, to remain relevant, which we are all going to discuss today, will definitely be very helpful. As regard the other topic on creating mentorship-led learning culture in CA firms, one of the rules we as CA firms provide, in addition to being a professional commercial venture, which involve providing audit, consulting, and various professional services to our clients, is also to provide training to our articles who later become successful chartered accountants. In a sense, our firms are also learning centers. I personally firmly believe that having a mentorship led learning culture in a firm has great benefits and shall continue beyond articleship period. There shall be benefits for everybody, every level of staff, and the entire team. With better learning culture, the firm will provide better delivery, which will help the firm and its personnel grow further and quicker. I look forward to hearing from the eminent speaker on the topic. I'm pretty sure that today's webinar will encourage our members to see things from different perspective and change our mindsets and think and act differently. I would like to send across my special thank you to both the eminent speakers and also to all the participants from different PAOs attending the webinar. Welcome once again. I remain here. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for your theme address. So now it's my privilege to introduce Mohammed, Mr. Mohammed Himayun Kabir, sir, the President, SAFA. Mr. Kabir is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh with over 4 decades of remarkable professional experience spanning public practice, financial institutions, business leadership, and professional governance. Throughout his illustrious career, he has held several significant leadership roles and served as a council member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh for 8 consecutive terms from 2001 to 24. He has also contributed extensively to public policy and governance, having served as director on boards on major organizations, advisor to chambers of commerce and industry, facilitator for alternate dispute resolution with the National Board of Revenue. In recognition of his outstanding contributions, he has received several national honors, including the Environmental Award from the Ministry of Environment, Government of Bangladesh, and recognition of a commercially important person multiple times by Ministry of Commerce. He is widely respected for his deep insights on corporate governance, fiscal policy, financial management, and microeconomic strategy, and continues to contribute significantly to strengthening the accountancy profession across South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me to welcome Mr. Mohammed Humayun Kabir, sir, the President, SAPA. Over to you, sir.
Thank you for your introduction. It is a privilege to address you all at this vital webinar series, Bridging the Mindset Gap. Distinguished guests, fellow professionals, and dear members of the SAFA, SMP, and ICI committee. Today's theme, Stay Curious, Stay Relevant, a growth mindset for building and scaling of CA practice, strike at the very heart of how we must evolve as a profession within the South Asian region. The accountancy landscapes is no longer defined solely by historical data or compliance. We are operating in an era of rapid technological shifts, evolving ethical standards, and heightened stakeholder expectations. To navigate this, the mindset gap is the single greatest hurdle we must clear. To build and scale sustainable practices today, we must move beyond the traditional fixed mindset of a technician and embrace the growth mindset of a strategic advisor. Curiosity is the antidote to obsolescence. In a world of artificial intelligence and automated reporting, our value lies in asking the right questions, the why behind the numbers. A curious practice, a curious practitioner identifies risk before they crystallized and sports opportunities that data alone might miss. We cannot scale our farm if we do not scale our people. Creating a mentorship led learning culture is not a soft human resource goal, it is a business imperative. When senior partners mentor junior associates, we ensure that tacit knowledge, the professional skepticism, and ethical judgment that define us is passed down, creating a resilient institutional memory. As we scale, we must remember that ethical governance is the foundation of any sustainable small and medium practitioners. By embedding transparency and integrity into our firm's DNA, we go beyond mere compliance. We build the public trust that is essential for long-term stakeholder confidence and regional economic stability. As professionals, we hold a position of public trust. Fulfilling this responsibility requires us to stay abreast of global benchmarks while remaining deeply connected to our regional realities. Whether it is adopting new digital tools or championing ethical leadership, our commitment to grow determines the longevity of our impact. I commend the SAFA SMP committees and the CMP of ICI for their foresight in organizing this series. It is through these collaborative dialogues and the sharing of best practices that we strengthen the fabric of accountancy profession across South Asia. I urge every participant today to view this webinar not as a learning session, but as a catalyst for cultural change within your firms. Stay curious, stay hungry for knowledge, and most importantly, stay committed to the growth of those around you. With these words, I wish all a highly productive and insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom. So now we look forward to our first eminent speaker for today's session is CA Greek Kaushik, sir. Sir is a chartered accountant, CPA US, and certified information system auditor with over 2 decades of experience across corporate finance, audit, valuations, and strategic advisory. Sir is currently a partner of CA firm at Bangalore, where Sir leads the firms in valuation practice, family office advisory, and transaction structuring and deal advisory. Prior to that, Sir is spent with a decades of experience in business finance, where he led deal structuring for billion-dollar engagement and handled M&A due diligence across global businesses. Sir began his professional journey with Big Four, gaining experience in US GAAP audits and cross-border engagements. Apart from his professional work, Sir is a passionate AI enthusiast, constantly exploring technology to enhance productivity in professional firms. Today, Sir will speak on Stay Curious, Stay Relevant, a growth mindset for building and scaling CA practices. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming CA Girish Kaushik, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you, CA Praveen Jha and CA Mohammad Humayun Kabirji. I think your 5 minutes of address encapsulated whatever I want to speak for, let's say 40-50 minutes. That shows your experience and ability to apply the concept very, very clearly in such a short time. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for the SAFA leadership to arrange this web series. Of course, my alma mater, ICI, and the committee for members in practice. Thank you very much. Please allow me to share my screen. So, when I was invited to speak in this webinar, I had a long list of topics that one could talk about. But I realized that probably there are more experienced people in the audience, definitely more accomplished people. And that creates a sense of nervousness talking about technical topics. Talking about general topics such as this is definitely an area of comfort. But at the same time, given where we are, the world is in flux, economy is in flux, there is war, there is AI, and there is so much of influx of information and various stimuli every day on our screens, on our Twitter feeds, and everywhere else. So I actually thought that this may be a good time to redraw ourselves to a base or an anchor where we draw upon our human characteristics that have allowed us to actually become reach the pinnacle of evolution or the animal kingdom, so to say, right, or the creation itself. And that, I think, the basic human endeavor is always to seek growth. The basic human endeavor is always to be better today than yesterday. The basic human endeavor has always been about pushing boundaries. So therefore my choice eventually came to this topic, which is very, very close to me. And this is something that I keep talking to my daughters on a very regular basis. And so when I was preparing for this, one incident came to my mind. So I like watching Tour de France, which is a cycling race across France. It happens over a 21-day period, roughly about 2,000 kilometers. Extremely, extremely demanding, and hundreds of cyclists, get themselves on a 7 kg piece of metal, 8 kg piece of metal, and cycle at speeds which at times exceed 100 kilometers per hour in rain conditions, snow conditions, cycling downhill. And my wife always asks me, why? And I'm an enthusiast. I like cycling, and she keeps asking me, why do people want to do this? Why does anybody want to push themselves so hard and so much close to a life-threatening situation? And my answer to that is, if humans did not push boundaries, if there was some spark that did not make us push boundaries, we probably all would have had tails. That evolution from an ape to a human being is largely for that inner spark that has human curiosity pushing boundaries on a daily basis. So that is the reason why I thought this could be a topic that we could speak about. Definitely not technical, but I would like to take some personal anecdotes as I try and put some kind of a structure to this topic. So the picture here is something that even a 5-year-old would recognize. Probably one of the most famous human beings ever. Epitome of scientific reason, epitome of curiosity, epitome of what a human being could discover. Sir Albert Einstein is all of that and more. But one of his most famous quotes, or he has many, many quotes with respect to curiosity. Very curious. When I started researching about this topic, I found that there are more than 10 or 15 quotes attributed to Albert Einstein about curiosity. And, when we credit somebody like Albert Einstein for having pushed our understanding of physics, of the God equation, so to say, or at least opening the doors to that, the most profound statement he has made to me was this. Because of his curiosity, he was able to work for more than 10 years, every day refining that formula without having anything to show at the end of the day, other than the fact that he was curious and he thought about it. So, but I would like to leave a question, and please don't think I'm presumptuous. I'm asking this question because we are all, in my introduction, the committee of members of practice representative, he said, I'm a CA, I'm a CPA, I'm a CISA, I'm also a registered valuer. That means that I have to get something like 600 hours in a 3-year rolling block of period. All of them have different requirements. So most of my learning, so to say, is driven by CPE requirements. But if I remain that, then, I think the human essence is lost in that. So I keep questioning myself, am I learning something that is different from what the profession is? Is profession and learning related to the profession the only pathway for me to develop myself as a human being? But this is a question that's probably relevant for this session as well. Therefore, I thought that, look, let's move from that question to see that, if we were to think about stay curious, stay relevant, there are two aspects to this, right? One aspect, of course, is the mindset. How open you are, how curious you are, how much do you want to learn something new today? Or are we all getting bogged down by compliance deadlines? Are we all getting bogged down by daily deliverables? And therefore, leaving something of a great superpower that we all have behind. But is it enough if we just stay curious, right? Curiosity without action is probably something similar to a daydreaming exercise. We can be intellectually extremely curious, but how do we see and bring that into action in our daily lives? Which is why I thought the second part of that, which is staying relevant, is also as important. Staying curious is the mental model. It is the ability to open up yourself into new experiences, new people, and new learnings. And staying relevant is probably to make those connections, tinkering, experimenting, making changes, and bringing that curiosity and knowledge acquired in that process into something that is practical and takes the practice forward. Going into the staying curious as the theme, I think this is an internal game. Curiosity is certainly not something that I would actually argue that curiosity is something that all of us are born with. It's not a personality trait, but we are actually born with it. You see a child, the child is curious about standing, about touching something new, about touching a flame of a diya and actually burning its hand. The curiosity has no bounds. It's absolutely pure and innocent. And it is soaking up information and knowledge on a continuous second by second basis. But somewhere through formal education, and I think there are people who have opined that formal education is what kills curiosity. So at some point of time, we lose that innocence, we lose that attribute to go and seek knowledge or seek experiences for its sake alone. And we get into a process-driven life. But I believe curiosity is something that can be developed. It's a practice. It's like a muscle. And we all need to practice some of these things as mental models, I feel, to be able to give our mind the greatest power it can get. So I was thinking about curiosity and the practice of curiosity as a trifecta, and what we need to have as basic building blocks for us to be practicing curiosity in our daily life. And when I mean curiosity, it doesn't mean only professional learning, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the trifecta in the form of genuine interest and openness, not just in professional, but across all the experiences that life throws at you. Once you are interested, there has to be a yearning to learn on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis. And what that means is not that we have to become experts in everything we touch, but learning more about something, learning more about someone, asking that why, I think is a critical ingredient in us developing this curiosity-based mindset. At the bedrock of it is a no judgment policy. And all of us rather, as human beings, are trained to judge. Judgment about people, judgment about ideas, judgment about another person's practices, and so on and so forth. Growth mindset is replacing that judgment with a sense of curiosity. And therefore, having no judgment becomes a precursor to actually building that curiosity-based mindset. We'll talk about that a little bit. So the best professionals are consultants, professional colleagues, lawyers that I have met, advisors that I have met, are not the ones who were, of course, all of them were extremely, extremely skilled in their own specializations. I would be remiss if I don't recognize that. But they had something else as well. They had very wide-ranging interests. They had extremely well-read repertoire of knowledge. They read books like there was no tomorrow. They watched movies. They listened to songs. They listened to rock music. They listened to Rabindra Sangeet. Right. So the general approach to life was about getting something from the width that life had to offer. As I was researching for this session, of course, Leonardo da Vinci is probably one of the most famous, recognizable people from from the golden era of Greco-Roman development, or whatever we want to call it as. But we know him as the person who had extensive designs on flight, on helicopters. We know him as the person who drew the Vitruvian Man, who tried to find the perfect anatomy of a human being. We know him as a person who conducted thousands and thousands of experiments, surgeries, and dissecting cadavers in finding how the perfect the vein of a human being has to be shown on the forearm. So mathematics, art, engineering, birds, the feathers of the bird, they have found more than 7,000 pages of notes and notations, where Leonardo da Vinci very effortlessly moved between art and science, trying to find, the genius that he was. So his genius was not specialization. He was not a aeronautics engineer. He was not a person who just did paintings and sculptures. He did all of that and more. And I think that generalization, that approach of being a generalist, came from genuine interest and curiosity about life that was going on around him. The next step of this is the yearning to learn. How can learning become non-negotiable on a daily basis? And that doesn't need to be only for CPE hours. Of course, it is required. It doesn't have to be something that relates to client service. Of course, that is a given. Unless we know what we are advising, we can't be. So the being the best of the specialists that we are in our own practice is non-negotiable. But learning outside of that is also non-negotiable. And there are benefits that we can bring to bear for our own practice by general learning as well. 2005 address of Steve Jobs is extremely famous. I think all of us probably have seen the YouTube videos of Steve Jobs talking about how he dropped out of school and built Apple. We have watched movies about Steve Jobs. He's probably one of the most iconic world-changing business leaders that we have seen for the impact he has had on all of us. Not to mention his connection to India and the inspiration he claims to bring from India. But we know he dropped out of college. After that, one of the classes that he kept taking was a calligraphy class. At that time, as an engineering computer science student, to learning calligraphy probably was of zero use. But of course, he went to those classes, continued those classes, because he found the fonts, the beauty, the art of it. And I believe he discovered the course by looking at the posters that they had put for the calligraphy class and the beauty of the letters on that poster. Many years later, and I think whoever uses Apple knows that what draws them to that. I'm an Apple user, and what draws us to that is the beauty of the fonts, the simplicity of the design, and how the typography, the serif and the sans serif fonts that have become iconic as far as Mac is concerned. He connected those dots much later, but he had to put those dots in the first place. He had collected those dots. He could only collect it much later. I believe he said, much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. So it's a hindsight. Of course, it's a hindsight. But unless he had that sight, he couldn't have had the hindsight. So that ability for him to go and learn something, just for the curiosity, rather than seeing whether it will impact him or help him in his computer science, is something that that was very, very, very touching, so to say. One of the things that I wanted to bring a personal experience as well. I had attended a client's board meeting. The client is a Japanese client, and they're very proud of their culture, their heritage. They're very proud of the practices that they have on the factory floor, be it the Kanban system, be it the Kaizen system. Many of us may have heard of it. Many of us may have read about it. Beautiful philosophies, very, very distilled. In that meeting, one of the gentlemen brought up a practice of something called Shisa Kanko. Please pardon my pronunciation if it's wrong. It is going to be wrong. But it was very interesting. So the gentleman said that in the factory, they have a system where when a person finishes his job and moves the material to the next person in the conveyor belt, they have a system of pointing and calling. So they shout out loudly, saying that my job is done and it's for you to take over. The temperature is so on and so forth. The length is so on and so forth, whatever the parameters. And the gentleman told me that it had helped improving quality quite significantly. So I went and found out that this practice actually was started in Japan on their train system. When the train conductor tells the driver that it's okay to leave the station, there are multiple parameters. Today, we are in the age of robotics, about AI, computer vision, and probably some safety features that are inbuilt. We probably have driverless trains. But when maybe a couple of decades ago, when people are milling around, Japan is a high density population country. When people are milling around near the station, all the doors have to be closed, and the train has to pull out of the station with all the safety parameters ticked off. One of the practices that Japanese train system brought in was something called point and call, or Shiza Kanko. So it was very curious. So the train conductor had to point out and shout, saying that the signal is green. He had to point out and shout, saying that the platform is empty. He had to point out and shout that the doors are closed. And the driver has to also shout and acknowledge that. And it reduced errors quite significantly. So it's got nothing to do with accounting. It has got nothing to do with compliance. But when we were talking about errors that our teams were doing in our accounting practice or compliance practice, we thought it might be a good idea to see if we can implement something like this in our compliance or in our MIS preparation. So, of course, we don't have a factory floor, so we don't have the ability to shout. But we created some triggers like this, where people either highlight that specific item that they need to talk about. They write in a red font saying that I have looked at it. They make assertions. And when you do that, you engage the frontal lobe, right? So you become that much more focused and therefore reduce errors. This idea did not come from accounting. This idea did not come from what I learned in my articleship. This idea came from something completely from the left field, from Japanese train. So why I like this example, and I give this example within office when we are talking internally as well, is that when you are a generalist and when you want to pick up good ideas from anywhere and everywhere, your ability to come and bring it back to your point of place of work is what that hindsight actually becomes valuable. So that yearning to learn from every experience is something that is a very critical second part of the curiosity trifecta. Third one is no judgment. I had actually put this as the first point, but I pushed it later because this is something that's important across. It's more or less like a foundation. And there is a personal experience as well, which I don't think is in the deck, but I will talk about it. So recently, when I was Simon Sinek is somebody that I follow. Very well-known author, and has put forth really interesting ideas. One of the YouTube videos that I was watching of him, he talks about a friend of his from Tennessee who had conspiracy beliefs. So he was a conspiracy theorist. So whenever somebody comes and tells me a conspiracy theory, somebody tells me that I've seen some astrologers show and this war will end by April 30th or something like that. The the immediate instinct is judgment. Are you kidding me? How can this be? Somebody talks about a Yeti still living in Himalayas, or somebody talks about a UFO. The first instinct is of judgment. And I believe when Simon Sinek heard his friend's conspiracy beliefs, his instinct was judgment as well. Judgment doesn't need to be always vocal. It comes out as body language. It comes out of reactions. And the friend called it out. And the friend said that, look, you are a thinker. If you don't even listen to what I'm saying, if you're not curious about my view, and you dispose of that view at the beginning itself, then what will you learn? Right? So Simon says that he chose curiosity. He listened deeply, and found common ground. It doesn't mean that he agrees with the conspiracy theory, but he understood the rationale behind it. He probably found a common ground. So that no judgment was a very important factor or a foundation as far as being curious goes. Because you can be curious about anything. Somebody could be curious about numerology. Somebody could be curious about something else, right, which we don't subscribe to. But there may be a common ground there. And you can't find it unless you have zero judgment. Simon, in his talk, also talks about a filmmaker called Dia Khan. She is a Norwegian citizen. Now, this is a very interesting example. She has, I forgot to write the name of the movie here. She has made a documentary called The White Right, talking to the enemies or something like that. So she wanted to make a documentary about hate, about racial hate that is there in some countries, right? So she actually went and spent a lot of time with, and she herself is not a Caucasian. She went and spent a lot of time with Ku Klux Klan members, very high-ranking members of Ku Klux Klan, former skinheads and supremacists, right? If she had gone there with a objective or an attitude of lack of curiosity or a judgment, there is no way that a supremacist would have spoken to somebody who is not a Caucasian. But the lack of judgment and the curiosity that she took to that interaction, she believes that some of them actually normalize their judgments, normalize their own beliefs. She talks about at least one of them leaving that belief system of racial prejudice. She talks about one other member of Ku Klux Klan talking to her about why he built that racial hatred in himself initially. What was the background? What was his background, and why he became like that? Now, that also means you shouldn't judge yourself. If you're curious about something, people have made fun of me because I wanted to learn how to play the veena at my 40th year of age. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to judge myself. I'm going to power through it. It's going to sound horrible, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to judge myself. I'm just curious about this. Right? The personal example I wanted to give is linked to the box that I have below in this slide. As practicing chartered accountants or accountants, many times clients come to us with ideas that don't pass the smell test immediately. Somebody in the team may come up with an idea that doesn't seem right to start with. We may not understand why a particular return is being filed or a compliance is being mandated. The first instinct is always to judge. It is to how to build the curiosity muscle, and that is a discipline. One example, so today we have a company in India, which is probably the top 3 e-commerce companies in India. Extremely large company. Its market capitalization is at the north of $5 billion. This company was incubated in our firm. I incorporated the company. And the company went through 2 or 3 pivots. The gentleman used to come to our office, a young gentleman. He would come in shorts, he would come sit with me and talk to me. And I judged. I didn't understand the idea. And I didn't have the openness to understand that idea deeper. I I didn't tell him that. I provided the service. He wanted me to incorporate the company. I incorporated the company. He wanted me to help him with the initial structuring. We did that. We then became auditors. We did audit. But because I judged, possibly that was evident in my body language. Certainly did. Meetings and so on and so forth. There is enough scientific evidence to say that as you retain your curiosity, your neuroplasticity improves. You're creating new neural connections. You're building new gray cells where they did not, where you're losing gray cells because of age. You're building new gray cells as well. I believe that is the best way of retaining our competitive edge as human beings, as intelligent species, and as practicing chartered accountants. How else will you know how to talk to a client about a tennis game? If it's an American client, talk to them about a basketball game. How else will you know how to talk about current affairs unless you retain that sense of curiosity? So with this, I want to move to the second part of curiosity, which is application of curiosity. We had to put that curiosity to work in some ways. And many of us get into the loop of perfection. Perfection will come. Perfection is extremely important. But we lose the beauty of tinkering, of experimenting, of actually failing. As we keep moving forward, we keep opening new doors and doing new things. Because that curiosity is what keeps us leading us down new paths. This is what Walt Disney said. But it's true pretty much on a daily basis as far as we are concerned, right? So unless we keep trying new things, how do we apply that curiosity? Tinkering is curiosity with your hands. And when I mean hands, it's about doing something, picking up a project, picking up an idea, and actually seeing where it goes and how it can be added into your workflow. We spoke about that Japanese pointing calling technique. How can I implement that? How can I tinker that into my workflow? How can I put that into my compliance workflow? Is tinkering. Now, what is the power of tinkering? When I started again researching on tinkering, one of the first few things that came was about James Dyson. I'm sure many of you know Dyson as a brand. It's extremely overpriced vacuum cleaner, extremely overpriced hair dryer, extremely overpriced air purifier and a fan. And that's what I used to think till I bought one. Once you buy one, you'll know the beauty of the design. You'll know how well it is built. There are a lot of copycats that are 1/5 the cost, but you'll know how beautifully this particular piece of machinery has been built. There are hardly 5 items in their lineup or 10 items in their lineup. Each of them are bestsellers. So when I look back at what James Dyson had done, right, he got upset that his vacuum cleaner had lost its suction power. Vacuum cleaners lose suction power for a variety of reasons. Vacuum cleaners were very inefficient. We had vacuum cleaners which needed to change the bag. The bag had a hole, it loses suction. So it's just a noise-making machine at the end of the day after that. But that led him down a path of tinkering. And I'm sure he was an engineer. He had the technical capabilities and the design capabilities to do what he did, but he tinkered. He is on record to have made 5,127 prototypes over a 5-year period. 5,127. That's a lot of tinkering, right? Now, today it's a multi-billion-dollar company. But unless he learned from each of those failures, there was no going forward. One of the experiences that I keep thinking, again, personal experience, is about my father. My father was a chartered accountant. He qualified at a very young age. He practiced for a number of years. If he was alive, he would have finished 50 years of practice this year. His education had nothing other than commerce. And of course, commerce education in 1970s in India was not like it is today. There were no shorts. There were no YouTube videos. There was no e-learning. I think study material and books were also very much short in supply. Here to get them from Calcutta and so on and so forth. But this story is not about that. Once he passed his chartered accountancy, he joined as a part-time finance controller. He was practicing in the evenings, and mornings he would go to the factory in Pina. Pina is one of the largest industrial areas in Bangalore, one of the largest industrial areas in Asia, located in Bangalore. It's full of small to medium factories, machining shops, lathes, this, that, etc. The company that he worked with, and he worked with it till the entrepreneur passed away sometime in mid 2000s, was a machine design shop. So they made custom built specialty machines, which was very, very unique. They designed machines for use cases where standard machines were not available. There, it was his curiosity that led him to stay in the factory floor. It was his curiosity. I've seen him weld a pipe, and I was flabbergasted. It's a very beautiful sight to see sparks flying out, and it fixing a metal to a metal and so on and so forth. I've seen him draw an electric line in our house, change a switch, change a tap, repair the car. Those were the days when carburetors had to be cooled, radiators had to be cooled with water and so on and so forth, right? I mean, I'm guessing even now you have to, but I don't remember the last time I opened the hood of my car. I don't think I have the confidence to change a switch. But he did all of that, all because he had curiosity. And he applied it as amateurly as he could. Those electric lines were not works of art, but he tinkered every single day and he learned something new. He brought that to office as well. And I added this column on the right just about half an hour before the presentation, because I was remembering what else he tinkered with. And how you can connect the dots and bring something else. There was an income tax case, and these were the days when income tax required a clearance certificate. Income tax department, we had to apply to the income tax department to get a clearance certificate to be able to sell immovable property. The department would take a call whether the price at which the transaction is happening is fair market value or not. And as I recall, there was a provision where income tax department could say, I will buy it because it's not at fair market value, let me buy it. So this was the situation. I think I was in 7th standard or 8th standard. I was playing around at his office, and he said, look, he was talking about this to me and said, look, this client wants to sell. He's not getting a good price because of various reasons, but we have to go and apply to the income tax department. What do we do? Right? And we were watching television, some Vastu show or something or the other. And the idea struck him, saying that why don't we look at why he is not getting the fair market value in that area, right? We realized that it was not happening because of Vastu. It was located in it was facing the south, or it was in a junction of 3 roads or something like that, because of which the owner was not able to sell it at the price that he should have got. Now, that was tinkering. So he actually dispatched me to City Central Library, looking at Vastu books, writing down, copying notes about how this particular aspect can drive down the price. As I recall, I think at least at that forum, he was successful in that argument. Now, the lesson from that was not to say that we should all learn Vastu, but I think that openness to that idea actually helped him create that connection between how a property price can come down versus what could be argued in an income tax department to say that look, there could be a reason outside of the next door neighbor's price that can actually drive the price down for a particular property. The next one is obviously the cost of learning, failing fast. Again, as Einstein has a lot of quotes, I think one of the most recognizable names in business today is Jeff Bezos. And he didn't start out like that. There were a number of failures that he had. He created a number of startups that failed. The Fire phone, the Fire device failed. I had bought it, paying thousands of rupees, and it was a piece of clunky machinery. But he has been quoted many, many times saying that if you're not failing, you're not innovating enough. And he says that he gave only a 25 to 30% chance for himself to succeed when he launched Amazon. Right? Now, that failing fast is something that is very important. And this is something that I would like to practice in my life as well. The picture that you see on the left-hand side is from my whiteboard. And why this whiteboard came out like that, and this is a list of my failures in the recent times, whatever I pushed my practice into doing, which did not give the expected results. One of my partners questioned me in partners meeting, saying that, look, you're very restless, you keep pushing new ideas. It sounds very good at the start, but what is the cost of your failures, right? And that's a very straight challenge. And my initial reaction obviously was being defensive. I was defensive. I said, why are you questioning me? Nobody else is innovating. I'm innovating. Look at what else succeeded. For all these 8 things that have failed spectacularly, there are probably 8 things that succeeded spectacularly. And we fought in that meeting. But after the meeting, I was sitting and thinking. I wrote down all the big failures on the whiteboard. That's what is there on the screen there. Each of those failures had led to new beginnings. They either taught me not to do something or to do it differently. And therefore, there is a cost to learning. There's a cost to progress. Failure is a necessary cost of that learning. So that has led me to come to a conclusion that I will keep that list of failures. I'll keep it as an exhaustive list. The more I fail, at least I'll have the satisfaction that I'm getting up and doing something every day. And that's the culture I'm trying to push for in my firm as well. I took the liberty of quoting another professional colleague of mine, with his permission, of course. Some of the audience may know him. In Bangalore, definitely he is quite well known, and I'm sure in the rest of the country as well, internationally as well. Why as a mentor, I'm very attracted to his personality and attitude. He always has something new, always. Very early to say that, Girish, we have a paperless office. You can't find a single piece of paper in my office. And this was surprising because we were working out of an office where files and papers were flowing out of every rack possible. We had computers and all of that, but we were still printing reams and reams. So why paperless office? Then I asked him why. So he had a workflow system already built in. Now he had implemented workflow systems when for us, we were thinking that we were ahead of time and we had computers for everybody. But most of us were using Tally or Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. He had a workflow system as a chartered accountancy firm based out of Bangalore, India. He was well ahead of his time. Now he's pushing on AI, he's pushing on efficiency. He tries something new, he fails at it, he tries it, he adapts it. We speak quite a bit, and he has given me a lot of inputs of projects that he has started. And many of them have failed, which he will also accept. But the ones that have succeeded are proof that the only way the firm moves at his speed, the only way that he's able to push the practice forward at his speed is by tinkering, is by experimenting, is repeatedly building something that compounds over a period of time. So I thought I'll build a framework for our office this year. We have our annual strategic plan meeting next week. And this is something that is part of that process that we want to try. So we want to give a budget to each of our team members, a small budget, and say that, look, you pick up we are dividing the office into 4. You pick up one area. It could be implementation of AI. It could be implementation of quality related systems. It could be anything. Try it. One month, 1 quarter, whatever the time period is. Try whatever you want. Within the budget, you are free to do whatever you want. There is no judgment. No partner is going to come and tell you that this is not the way to do it. Partners are there for guidance, but it is something that the team has to do. The team has to come up with a new idea. And I've always been surprised when the team came up with ideas. There have been something that we could never think of it ourselves. And you have permission to fail. No questions asked. If your budget is ₹1 lakh and you fail, you fail. No questions asked. That's the cost of learning. That's the cost of culture building. But it requires us to reflect. What did we learn? How did we fail? What did we fail? As long as we are doing something different from that failure going forward, I think then we are primed to decide whether to go deeper or to try the next thing. Just to bring this together, we spoke about staying curious, having genuine interest across a wide range of subjects, being a generalist so that you can bring all those experiences to bear when you advise a client, having that yearning to learn at your own pace, but lifelong, but do it all without judgment. If we are able to do that and bring up curiosity in 10 different areas, how can we tinker, experiment, fail fast, do it, take it to the market, fail, stop, go do something else, and implement faster, or maybe in the other order, but implement faster. Don't wait for perfection. Try, adapt, move. I think I want to give a last personal anecdote, and then possibly we can close the session. I don't know whether there's a Q&A session as part of the webinar, but if there is, I'll be happy to take it. Otherwise, I'm sure our next speaker is definitely going to be more interesting than me. So again, personal experience. I have a lot of things going on in my life. It's not just about work. And there is a restlessness. Now, what is that restlessness? I listen to spiritual discourses. I read books on psychology. I am a marathoner. I've run a number of marathons. I've never been on the podium. I've never won even single of them. In fact, the most recent one was I did not finish. I've now moved to ultra distance cycling. I run ultra distances, which means in excess of 42 kilometers. I've been a gym and yoga enthusiast throughout. And as I said earlier in the discussion, I've started to learn the Veena, relearn the Veena. I stopped it when I was 12 years old. I've been a lifelong enthusiast of Sanskrit, and I continue to learn that. Now, there's so many of these things, and the time for all of these things have to go from the same 24 hours when I have to manage family, work, and so on and so forth. So there are many, many balls in the air always. So my family came to me and said, hey, Girish, you're a wannabe. Why do you want to be so many things, right? So I went and checked out. This is what my daughter called me, actually. She called me a wannabe. She calls me a wannabe dad. So I went and checked out what this wannabe is. And I think this wannabe is this guy who wants to be something other than what he is. And I actually went back and told her after thinking, and actually wrote a small blog as well. I want to be a wannabe. I want to try 100 more things and fail in 100 more things. Because each of those things has helped me grow in something or the other. All the psychology reading, the spiritual reading, it has helped me understand my own reactions. Hopefully, I am a more patient, more tolerable guy than what I was earlier. I understand when I am angry. I understand when I shouldn't be. I understand when that maturity needs to be brought to fore. Otherwise, I can't be a consultant. I can't be an advisor. The physical part of the learning is something that taught me discipline. I've been at it for the last 15, 20 years now. I'm never going to be good at it, but I'll always be disciplined. I'm always good at the consistency. I put the Sanskrit and the Veena as parental because I'm curious. I don't even have to ask my daughter to be curious about what she has to do. She's already curious. My second one, who's a 5-year-old, is already curious enough to say that, look, my sister is learning violin, you're learning Veena, my mother is learning piano. I want to learn something else. That curiosity comes from home. That's why I've called it as parental. So just to sign off, I want to be a wannabe throughout my life, because I don't know how tomorrow's profession is going to be. Mr. Muhammad Humayun Kabir sir said that a lot of things are happening in the profession. AI is coming in, automation is happening. I'm using Claude day in and day out, and it's scaring me. I mean, it doesn't take time to do things that I used to take weeks together to do. It was my forte as an expert. It doesn't take that kind of time anymore. Claude does it with all its errors. It's going to get better. But when we don't know what tomorrow's profession looks like, the only way is to shape it ourselves. And that, I think, is by continuing to tinker, continuing to learn, and continuing to practice that curiosity. With this, thank you for your curiosity today. And I would like to stop the presentation here. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session. So I would like to introduce the next seminar speaker for today's session, C. Hemekant, sir. Welcome, sir. Sir is a distinguished chartered accountant, mentor, researcher in cognitive learning frameworks, and an aspiring thought leader in professional education. Sir achieved an extraordinary milestone by clearing all the level of the CA course in his first attempt at the age of 21, and also secured a national rank in CMA. Sir, decade-long research in cognitive psychology and learning methodologies led the development of the Human Intelligence Mastery (HIM) framework, designed to enhance the learning capability and professional performance. Through Sir initiative and mentoring programs, Sir has positively impact good numbers of students and professionals across the India. Today, Sir will speak on very important theme: creating mentorship-led learning cultures in CFM. Please join me in warmly welcoming C. Hemekant, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, team, for the warm introduction. First of all, I want to thank the honorable guests who have started with a 5-minute power play, which set the context right. And most importantly, I would like to thank my fellow speaker, Girish ji, for setting the base. Now I feel like the power play in the last power play, the 4 overs where I have, since the base is solid. Now you have created the path for me to go ahead. And personally, I can't think of a better word than mentorship, which is close to my heart and brain, because that is what I have been working in the last 1 decade. I'll share all the insights which I have built across the last 10 years. And specifically, we have this 10,000 hour rule. Once you invest 10,000 hours into something, you'll gain some very precise expertise. So today I'll be sharing it. Now, to begin with, I'm sharing the slides. I hope this is visible to all of you. Can the team confirm if the slides are visible to everyone? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We can see it.
Perfect. So now my style is a bit different from how any other speaker would do. So let's call it the classic blackboard method. All the slides are in monochrome except 3 to 4 so that they'll stay in your mind. The idea is my favorite way of mentoring is teaching through the traditional method. So I want heightened attention for the next 20 minutes. That is enough for you to understand this concept, okay? And as Girishji spoke about Simon Sinek, he's the why guy. Before we get into what and how, why is the most important aspect. So throughout my session today, my focus will be largely on why, because if this is driven, if this topic is driven in the minds of the participants that, okay, this is important for my firm, I'm sure you'll figure out how. So I'll be spending significant amount of time for why. Let me start with the topic itself. There are 3 important aspects which we are looking at. The first one being mentorship. Let us understand what is mentorship. And let us know a bit about learning also. Mentorship and learning and creating a firm. Largely, this could apply to a firm, this could apply to a consultancy, this could apply to a company. And this is what I'm doing it at both the ends for the company I'm building in. So that's why I'm quite excited for this topic. So let me give you a few objectives or expectation from the session. There are 3 aspects in this regard once again. First, you'll clearly know why mentorship is critical for your firm survival and growth. So this becomes a pillar for your growth to come in the next few decades. And second and third, you will get an understanding on how do you internalize this. It's not, mentorship is not like a separate session which has to be done. It can be internalized with what the firm is already doing. It's quite natural. It is quite natural. That is the reason why we call it mentorship, not coaching, not teaching. So you will be able to get a very deep insight into these 2 aspects of what can be done to go back and implement an aspect of this. So this is the 3-level objective of this session. And let me start with the core fundamental belief of why mentorship is important. Here, I'm removing the charitative aspect of it. For some of us, or most of us, before we get into it, it looks like a noble gesture. Okay, I have learned a lot in my life. I have some experience and expertise. Let me share it to my juniors. That is good, great. But the reality is, beyond a noble gesture, it is the single most important aspect which works as a growth lever to the entire firm or company. No matter whether the companies speak about it expressively or not, this is the truth. So all the companies that grow extremely fast leverage mentorship as a model to train the next generation of employees and scale the businesses moving forward. So if this is so important, why is it not happening already? So when you're looking at why is it not happening already, generally the founders or the core partners or the leaders do not have time. The reality is they do not have time. They also think they do not have time. And mentees are ready to learn, are ready to invest the first 2-3 years of their career into a particular organization, but they feel stuck because they are left directionless. So this is a problem which is existing in most of the firms. So lack of direction, I would say, more than anything else. And tools, technology, tactics cannot give you direction. It's very hard. It is largely built through a human-to-human connect. Let's say you start giving direction. What exactly is the advantage you get? 3 aspects. A good resource who is supposed to stay for 5 years will actually stay for 5 years. You won't be experiencing any uncalled attrition, which you're not anticipating. The more time capable teammates spend in your company, it increases your scalability. And the best part is you can replicate yourself. You have to clone yourself if you are an expert in certain areas. We withholding it for whatever reason is not going to help the firm. So you should be able to clone the best personnel into a second line and third line of leadership. So mentorship is important to build leadership. So this is the reason why I have been emphasizing on this as a concept. I believe now we have more than one reason to focus on the session. And most importantly, this word called mentorship will start buzzing in your mind as we proceed forward. Now, coming back to the correlation, a team can grow only through learning. And learning can happen only through mentorship. Once the culture of learning happens through mentorship, it leads to creating a element of scalability. I'm talking about scalability. Scale is the hidden word here. So how do you grow or how do you scale what you already have? This is the answer. This is the single most important thing. So let us start with the very simple and fundamental definition of mentorship. There are 2 people in this partnership. One is an experienced person guiding a less experienced person. Very simple, straightforward. Somebody knows 10, somebody knows 8. That is good enough. Mentorship is not a separate profession. Your ability to train or ability to guide is a far more better word. Ability to guide a less experienced person than you both professionally and personally. Why personally? I'll help you understand as we proceed forward. So I'm sure you understood the professional context. Without the growth in personality, professional growth would not happen. I'm sure by now, if you have already spent some 5 years in the profession, you would vouch for this. Professional growth cannot bypass your personal capability or your personality. So that is why people talk about personal development a lot, largely because it becomes an inhibitor for professional growth. So in a simple way, you need a more experienced person and less experienced person. This is the concept of mentorship in a very simple way. Second, it's not a structured classroom teaching. It is not even formal training, because all of this are available in most of the firms and companies, the formal training and structured learning. It is largely an equation of life to life transfer. The moment I say life to life transfer, it appears a bit vague, and this topic might seem abstract, but I'll give you good enough reasons with my own practical experience and proven, I would say, methodologies, so that you'll be able to understand it more than how we are doing it at this moment. So give me a couple of minutes to get there. But right now, I want you to take it on face value. It is a life-to-life transfer of wisdom, experience, and most importantly, perspective. Please pay attention to these three words: wisdom, experience, perspective. This cannot be read, this cannot be accelerated, this cannot be transferred through training or formal education. The maximum you can transfer is knowledge. But the hardest part is, how do somebody build wisdom out of that knowledge? And most importantly, perspective. Extremely hard. It's only a leader's capability, your ability to see things which others cannot see. How do you build perspective? So that's why it says real life to life or human to human transfer. So no amount of courses, no amount of books can substitute a real life human life to life transfer of wisdom. So I'll give you one example which will help you better understand what I'm talking about, especially the last sentence. So while we are talking about mentorship, it is a process. Mentorship is not the object. So if you remember the topic, learning is the objective. Mentorship learning cultures. Although it looks like the buzzword here, why are we trying to learn about mentorship? We want to make sure there is a culture of learning. Okay. The culture of learning works better when it is driven through mentorship, because learning through lectures is the most inefficient way. Learning by reading doesn't work. I'm sure you are very clear about it. Just because you're reading, it is not equivalent of learning. Just because you're listening, it is not equivalent of learning. Just because you're doing this also may or may not translate to learning entirely. So the demonstration or presentation is also not learning. The best or the most efficient way for somebody to teach and for somebody to learn is teaching others. So even for the mentor, for him to be able to internalize whatever he's picking up, the insights which you're picking up, if there is a connection and correlation in the capacity of a mentor-mentee, it helps both the mentor and mentee. This is the beauty of this mentorship equation, because it is a win-win for both of them. And it is the most active learning methodology, because when you have to open a book, you rather would not do it. But when you're learning from another person, there is heightened sense of attention. These are the two reasons. One, there is heightened attention when you are learning through mentorship. And the other aspect is it's one-to-one, mostly one-to-one. It's personalized, attention and personalization. I'll also share more about it as we proceed forward. So the involvement of elements of attention and personalization makes the mentorship extremely effective. Hope this is clear for all of you. Now let me give you a practical example. I have told you about me spending the last 1 decade on this topic. When I say topic, it is linked to learning and mentorship. So probably I'm the first chartered accountant, or maybe even the first entrepreneur to get a copyright in this space, in the space of how do you drive learning especially this is professional learning. This is not a random or vague learning. We built a framework. It took me 10 years, no doubt about it. It took me 10 years, 10 plus years, even more, to build a framework where the learning ability of an individual is maximized through mentorship. And this is used in the context of an exam. The reason why I'm saying this is, as much as it might look abstract, I'm giving you very, very concrete and technical reasons to pay attention for the next 15-20 minutes, because I don't want you to miss out on this. I'm sharing something extremely precious. This is my life's work. So I'm happy and glad to share it, but there is a chance that you may find this topic extract. So I'm giving you practical proof. So this is from the authentication. If you trust the government of India, if you trust the copyright framework, yes, this is for you. And also the benefit of this. Let's say somebody who has failed 12 times in a particular exam was able to clear in just one attempt after following the framework. Now, what is a framework? There are three aspects to this. One is, in this learning journey, there is an element of personalization. First element is personalization. And there is an intensive environment. Study may not be relevant for you, but I'm keeping the raw slides as they are. So one is personalization of your learning. Next is, there has to be an environment in which the learning has to happen. Environment is the playground on the top of which the learning has to happen. And finally, there has to be an improvement. Okay. One is personalization. Then there is an environment. There is an improvement. Only when there are these three pillars coming together, that is when learning can trigger the required objectives. Because what cannot be measured cannot be improved. So for you to measure something, you need an environment. If it is not happening in a controlled environment, it is no longer measurable. So this is the framework using which we have been producing fantastic results for our students. In fact, magical results, almost impossible. We can say impossible because somebody who gets stuck in a particular exam for 10 years, if you're able to do it in just one attempt or 1 year, it is largely because of the mentorship driven learning. So we have very, very strong reasons to believe that for moving ahead, or for the firms to grow ahead, more than the technological transfer, more than the tie-ups, more than the use of AI tools, this is the single most differentiating factor. Even the firms which my previous speaker Girishji was referring to, they have this culture of learning. Or if you spend enough time to know how certain firms build themselves in a very different way than the rest of the firms, I'm sure they're focusing on this. Now, let me pay attention to this word for a couple of minutes. Okay. Now, in terms of looking at learning, we have to understand learning is the most complex skill. I would say it is the most complex skill. It is a meta skill. It is the most complex meta skill. When I say this, even now, as you're listening to me, even when I'm talking about this skill called learning, you may not be able to retain most of what is being discussed here, because that is how it is. Otherwise, if you can continuously learn from the environment, from the observation, you will build near AI capabilities very fast. That's what AI does, right? There is no loss of transition of learning for machines, whereas we carry them a lot. So for you to be able to leverage learning, the most important layer is thinking. The reason why I'm bringing this is, I'm assuming most of the participants here are at the leadership level, or at the practitioner level, or the mentor level. So you need to understand why there are some of your mentees or your potential mentees who are not in a position to take the knowledge transfer or wisdom transfer from you. Because if it is given in the form of technical knowledge, it is very hard for them to take an input of it. You have to break the thinking barriers. There are thinking barriers and feeling barriers. This is cognitive barrier and this is an emotional barrier. Now here, I want to go deep and give you one more important framework. Again, this is also my lifetime work, and you have to, or you can correlate this with what happens when you're trying to learn something. So when you're looking at a young set of people, when the people are, especially when the resources are coming for the very first time, I'm assuming this context about the article students who are in the age group of 18 to 21, who are coming into a firm, who is going to stay with you for the very first time. their barriers to learning are heavily dominated by thinking and feeling. So that's why you have to be very, very cognitive, or you have to give importance to what are the barriers to learning. Otherwise, you cannot move in. That is one. And second, even the qualified chartered accountants who join you at the age of, let's say, 23 to 25 are coming with a huge opportunity cost in their mind. They'll always want to go with the biggest of the brands. Definitely, they'll definitely think of it. So when they're coming, you have to give them a clear-cut reason and clear-cut career path to go. For that to happen, the only incentive is learning, because you cannot compete their earning packages as compared to any of the big fours, whether at the internship level or at the post-qualification level. So the incentive which a firm offers any resource is learning, right? So why would somebody come to a mid-sized firm or a small-sized firm? It is largely because they believe they can learn a lot more and a lot faster, And the level of the quality of learning and speed of learning determines how long they would like to stay in the firm, because it's a long-term bet for most of the resources. The reason why I'm paying so much attention to this one single slide is because there is a framework called SAD, which makes learning very difficult, very, very, very difficult. So this is a framework which can literally stop anyone from learning. So that is why I'm giving you or getting your attention onto this in the next couple of minutes. So what about this particular framework? So when you're stressed about something, or when you're anxious about something, or when you're depressed about something, you cannot learn. So which means whether your present is bothering you, whether your future is bothering you, or whether your past is bothering you, it's very hard to learn. It's very, very hard to learn, because learning requires utmost attention. It requires a mind space. Learning does not happen over a physical place or a virtual space, right? No, just because you're here with me, the quality of learning depends on how much mind space do you have. So when you talk about mind space, there are a lot of thoughts and feelings which comes into the equation. So you have to pay a lot of attention, because I have seen a lot of firms trying to imbibe the practice of learning into the new generation. Especially this is all the more true for the latest generation, especially people born after 2000. So they go through one of this in one form or the other. So before you start the learning journey, please remove the barriers of learning. Please understand if something is bothering them in this aspect. If there is anything, it will be very hard for them to get started with learning. So that is why I'm first sharing you why people cannot learn, why there will be a significant loss of transfer of learning from the mentor to mentee unless these three aspects are sorted. And I have given you some practical examples, and this is exactly what we solve. This is exactly by solving this, we have seen cases learn 3x, 5x, 10x better as compared to how they have been learning in the last 3 to 5 years. So this is as factual as it can get. I hope this is insightful for you. At least you might start paying attention to this aspect. I believe this is the reason why you are here, to understand what are the barriers of learning before you get started with how it can be done. Now I'm quickly shifting the discussion to a very practical example so that you can correlate it. The reason why I'm not giving a technical CA firm is because when I observe a lot of models, there are very few unique firms which are already doing this. But when I take the example of managing consulting firms, it is easier for me to create a mental model in your mind to go about how you can make and how you can build a learning-led mentorship culture. Okay, so why are we discussing this? I would say every CA firm should approach the growth in a consulting perspective. When I say consulting perspective, all I mean to say is problem solving perspective. The problem should be defined very clearly. So once the problem is defined clearly, the learning algorithm gets fine-tuned to the problem solution matrix. I'll give you an example here. So normally when you look at CA firms, majority of the time, we are focused on the compliance. That is fair, that needs to be done, but it is important for us to, these are examples. See, again, these are only for your references. I'm not glorifying any of the firms here, but it is easier for you to correlate. So most of these companies or most of the consulting firms, the way they approach the growth is by solving important problems or expensive problems for expensive clientele. So depending on the nature of the problem, are you solving $1 million problem? Are you solving $1 billion problem? Are you solving a 10,000 problem? So this is what facilitates the possibility of growth. So even if you want to build a 3-layered learning ecosystem in your firm, first of all, you should be able to have that kind of problems, which creates the space for 2 to 3 generation leaders to be built in the firm. So at a very fundamental level, you should build a learning algorithm into the problem solution matrix. So any assignment which you're doing, have a hidden problem statement, at least for your firm internally, irrespective of how you're projecting to the client externally. So what would this do? Now I'm connecting this to the levels of learning. Please pay attention to this. So these consulting companies charge around 10 CR for 3 months. Okay. So why is it happening? So normally the 10 CR is distributed across 4 levels. At a particular level, let's say around 1.5 crore at the topmost level, 5 crore at the next level, 3 crore at the next level, and 2.5 crore at the next level. So 10 to 12 CR, let's consider this, million to 1.2 million. So you can equate it as 10 lakhs. If you think it's very exorbitant to think of a 10 crore project, so you can make it equivalent of 10 lakhs. Now, why am I building here? So here, there is a leader, which could be you in your respective firm, who has built an ecosystem where you can charge for your value. Your hourly rate is sorted. You can bill the client for your time. So why is somebody getting paid $2,000 and why is somebody getting paid $500? So it's not because of the qualification or the hierarchy alone. It is because of the quality of learning. The more learned you are, because we are in service industry, what is the product? We are the products. People are the products. So ultimately, for you to do a product upgrade, for you to do a software upgrade, the upgrade is called learning. I want all of you to pay attention to this particular part. I'm clearly telling you, for a mobile phone or any product, upgrade can happen in multiple ways. For a firm to upgrade itself, the upgrade can happen only when the top quality professionals increase in quantum. The increase in quantum, if you're directly getting from external sources, it gets very expensive. That is the reason why you cannot go for good quality hires. So learning is a faster and more affordable and sustainable approach where you have to upgrade the L1 and L2 and L3 people to the partner level. How can this happen? Where the partner creates a mentorship model where the consultants, especially consultants, get to learn fast and they build the near manager qualities at the fastest. And what is the role of the partner? The partner has to build enough managers so that managers can take care of the work which partners are doing, so that the partner gets headspace and they can go ahead and generate more business and they can focus on strategic objectives. So even in a firm, you should simplify the role into at least 3 levels and constantly what is the learning which should happen. So the learning should specifically focus on transfer of high quality skills. Lower level learning is not required. Somebody trying to type faster, or somebody trying to understand the latest version of Tally, or somebody trying to use QuickBooks for the first time or SAP for the first time, all of them would not have the same kind of value addition when they focus on the skills which are built by the partner or which the partner possesses, both in terms of delivery of the services and both in terms of acquisition of clients. So the learning roadmap should once again be connected to the growth roadmap. So before we blindly jump to learning something, what needs to be learned? What exactly is the learning algorithm of the firm? So this has to be linked to the growth algorithm, and numbers like this will create a path to the algorithm. So now we are looking at how can we improve a resource who is getting paid around X, move to a 4X tire or a 4x slab through learning. So this is exactly how you should fit this model into your mind. I hope this is clear. You can take a screenshot if this is required as a reference. Coming to the summary of the daily fees. So basically, if you have more number of people at this level who can upgrade to this level, you can experience more profitability, which I will share in the next slide in terms of the skill building. So these are the skills which are at the lower side. These are the skills which are at the higher side. So the reason why I'm sharing this is you need to differentiate what needs to be learned as compared to what need not be learned. So unfortunately, most of the firms focus the resources in teaching things which need not be scaled. What need not be scaled should not be scaled. What need not be optimized should not be optimized. That is where the founder should first apply a filter. So before we jump into the entire mentorship cycle, you need to define the scope of what needs to be learned. Now, what difference it makes? This is the difference. Your game as a service organization is revenue per employee. It's not about the total revenue. It's not about the number of employees you make. What is the average revenue per employee? How would you make more revenue, or how would you increase the average revenue per employee? Not because of more qualifications, just because you hire a triplet versus hiring only a chartered accountant or hiring only a cost accountant. The revenue per employee is not going to change. Certification is a good entry point. Maybe it fits the eligibility requirements of a PSU audit or a bank audit. But what gets you more revenue is the learning capability, which can eventually translate into the earning capability. Right? So why we are doing this? This is the reason. Instead of getting this, can we grow 3x or can we grow 4x? So I'm connecting the dots between learning and earning so that you will be able to look at this perspective very clearly. So always connect learning to earning outcomes so that it is easy for you to psychologically and physically invest time and resources into the most important wing of your organization. And as a combination of the format which I have shown across multiple slides, this is something which will work. When you have to directly mentor, let's say this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3. When you have to directly take care of the earning or the entire L&D, let's say learning and development wing of the firm, it doesn't work because there are time constraints. At the same time, if you outsource it like major companies where they have a series of web-based learnings, coaching by external authors, training sessions, none of them would work. The reason is it is not custom built, and your skills are the most valuable skills for your firm. Your firm is an outgrowth of your individual personality. It is a personal brand which has grown into some higher and bigger model where there is an acceptance from the clients. So the skills should be closer or above than the existing skills which you have. So the skills of the leader should scale. So what you should do is create an additional layer which is beyond the regular mentor and mentee relation. So let's say when I'm using the word learner, here I'm talking about mentee. So one of the mistakes which you should not do is do not directly get into mentoring the mentees. Add one more layer. This is very, very important. So you should be the head coach. Don't become the captain. Because captain gets occupied, and if you're a coach, you can create multiple teams and multiple ecosystems. So this is the captain, this is the player. Okay. So this is what you have to, of course, you have to check up on them once in a while. Understanding of what is happening is great, but you have to create a second line of leaders whom you're training, and they should automatically start training the third line of trainers. This is the most optimum way of doing things. This way, even if there are 1 or 2 exists here, they'll come and upgrade and replace it. Otherwise, if you're doing only one layer, they leaves. For example, if the third layer is not there, you'll be heavily dependent on the second layer. Where one of them leaves, you'll be worried. That is a classic worry. You're constantly afraid that what if I train somebody with my entire might? What if they leave? You can think of this. This might be a hidden fear. This is the reason why you might be stopping yourself from mentoring the next generation. So to avoid that and also to scale, both I would say there is both a pull and push factor for you to not do a 2-layered mentoring, and this is the most optimum layer of mentoring which will work for you. And now I'm converting this into examples which you can correlate for your firm. So as I said, almost 70% of the energy has been fully given to making you understand these 2 aspects. How mentorship can create a culture of learning, or why mentorship-led culture is the best way to scale your firm using learning as a tool. So when you are looking at it, I've given you enough reasons to pay attention to this aspect of learning, because your learning is connected to the earning also. That is about the why part. Now I'm quickly converting. The reason why I'm repeating or reconnecting the dots is, when you're looking at slides with images, it is very attractive. It is easy on the mind to begin with, but the retention rate of that is pretty low. Blackboard learning, if you do this, unless you put in a lot of attention, you cannot capture it. So I'm forcing you to pay attention. So this monochrome aspect will help you to pick up 1 or 2 insights, and I'm repeating it so that you're stitching the dots. And when we end the session in the next few minutes, you will be able to create a logical structure in your mind without seeing the slides or without thinking of it. I want to add the fundamental layer in your mind where you clearly know that learning is best done through a mentorship model. So I hope we have covered the why part reasonably well. Now coming to the how part with practical examples which are more suited to the firm level. One is technical mentorship. So technical mentorship, get the best of your subject expert. For example, the nuances of audit filing, tax filing, and compliance in the respective domains, and explaining a particular standard which applies based on an earlier case study or based on an earlier project which you could have done. And these are shortcuts, tools, and techniques which are not traditionally found in textbooks. So technical mentorship is something which most of the firms normally do, and I think this culture is going well in majority of the Indian firms. Technical mentorship is reasonably going good. Now coming to the behavioral mentorship. Now this is the being, if you notice or if you remember at the beginning of the slide, the mentorship. Now this is a test for you to know how much focused you are. So I have specifically pointed to a word where the mentor-mentee relationship should focus both on the professional aspect and also the personal aspect. This is what I meant. I just left a hint and I said I'll reconnect the dots. So the personal aspect is this. You have to tackle and you have to trigger and you have to tame the personality of an individual, the personal aspect of a professional, to experience a change in who they are. If you want to directly tell them what they have to do without changing who they are or how they are, it is very hard for them to experience that consistent change. So there has to be an aspect of behavioral mentorship, which will help in aspects like how to talk to clients. Because when I say this cannot be programmed. It's client conversation is not a scripted one. So they have to respond to the client's real time in a high pressure situation, and how to handle pressure and deadlines, and how to maintain professional ethics under stress. These are examples. So the reason is these are all uncharted territories for most of the young professionals before. So ethics is a far more fundamental layer of your personality, which is there or not there. It's not a thing which you get to choose. It should be natural. It should be happening naturally. That is what creates consistency in terms of the response from the firm side. So you have to identify the firm's culture and you have to drive it into the individual members through the behavioral mentorship. So the technical mentorship is something which most of the firms are good at. Behavioral mentorship is an aspect where there is no enough focus by the majority of the firms. Coming to career mentorship, I would say for the current generation, this is the most important aspect, because behavioral mentorship, yes, they would appreciate it, but what they clearly want from any organization is they want to grow along with the firm, they want to grow beyond the firm, and they want to grow above the firm. So the loyalty which was largely present 20 years ago is no longer there, because there is no more the need for it. People have more options and people are taking bold decisions on a short-term basis. So it is very, very important. I'm saying, I'm emphasizing this as the highest form of mentorship in your firm, where they should be able to build a career along with you or along with the firm, where your first responsibility is to make sure you build a path. Okay, 1 year down the lane, instead of we asking where do you see yourself in the next 2-3 years, you should be able to show the mentee that you can see yourself here in the next 2 to 3 years or next 3 to 5 years. So if they make them see the path, because if it stays in your head, that is not enough. Your ability to extract the vision into a larger scheme of thing is very important. Every firm should have a vision, whatever minimal or simple it is, it has to be clearly conveyed to that. So career mentorship, the first step is helping the mentee to see a path forward. And you should actively encourage them to specialize or diversify, because it is a win-win. If you have more specialists or if you have people who are diversified. See, so there's a concept of specialized generalists. Specialized generalists, it's like specialized all-rounders. When I say all-rounder is not somebody who cannot bat bowl. All-rounder is somebody who can bat, who can bowl very, very clearly with the same expertise. Somebody like Jack Scully's, who came at the top of my mind. So that is the kind of all-rounder which we are looking at. So encourage them to both. Ideally, if one happens, great. Or if you make them specialize and diversify, you will be able to give them something solid while they are staying with you at the firm. Okay, 1 year in 1 year of my career at this firm, I'm able to build my expertise in this domain. Or in 1 year, I'm able to diversify into so many areas, which I can clearly see the skill building aspect, because people primary focus in the initial years is learning, and they're willing to wait to capitalize this into earning. So I have seen this tendency in majority of the cases where the focus is more on the learning. So this is something which you have to understand and pay attention to. So you have to actively encourage them to specialize and diversify in other skills, and preparing them to become a partner someday. You should start finding your replacements. If you're not able to replace yourself, or if you don't find a replacement, you're just living in a glorified self-employment trap, is what I believe. So the reason why I'm time and again coming to this has been my experience in the last 2 to 3 years, and this has hit me very hardly. So I'm taking the liberty to say this thing sharply. So please pardon me if I am emphasizing on this way too much, because I lost a couple of years in the firm growth journey only because I was afraid of this. I have to be irreplaceable. I have to be having an advantage as compared to somebody else. Otherwise, the intellectual property might be taken away by somebody. All of that is not true, because your ability to scale the firm depends on cloning yourself. And of course, you will constantly evolve and upgrade yourself. So there is no replacement for you technically, but you should prepare them to become a partner someday to fit into your shoes. So if you take care of this particular aspect, then you can significantly see a profound difference in terms of how things are going. Now, quickly rolling back the slides. So one is the technical mentorship, which is linked to the subjects and academics and the related aspects. So this you might be already good at. So this is the knowledge aspect of the mentorship. Behavioral mentorship, this is a new unique area. This is the reason why I have asked you to pay attention to the SAD framework. So behavior aspects, are they stressed? Is something bothering them about their future? Or are they carrying some burden from the past, is something which we are looking at. And moving ahead, the career mentorship. So people stay early because of presence or absence of this mentorship aspect. So this is about the career mentorship. And finally, if I have to give one single takeaway in terms of trying to implement this into the organization, you have to create a path of teaching to leading. Let's say everybody wants an upgrade, right? So anybody wants an upgrade in terms of the role, whether in terms of the monetary rewards, in terms of the responsibility, in terms of the designation, there has to be an mandatory principle which talks about if you want to go to the next step. Let's say there are 3 steps: 1, 2, 3. One wants to go to 2. So it is one's responsibility to groom somebody from 0 to 1 and replace himself. A 2 wants to go to 3. So before you move up, you have to make sure you are grooming somebody. So if that is the case, the principal partners or the leadership team need not worry about creating vacuum. One of the reasons why there are promotions delayed or the growth story is delayed, because once somebody moves up the ladder, there is a vacuum. It's simple. Only when somebody is exceptionally good at 2, they'll move to 3. So it is once 2 moves to 3, he may not be very good at 3, and there won't be anybody who can fit in the role of 2 who can move from 1 immediately unless he's groomed and trained. So we are fixing the most fundamental problem why it is very hard for employees to get an upgrade or promotion within the firm, especially in terms of small teams. So when this culture is imbibed from the beginning, you constantly are creating levels of leadership. Everybody wants to upgrade, everybody wants to take the next step, and the replacement of the individual is done by them. So you're giving them more per along with responsibility. So this creates a very, very healthy organizational structure. And I always have the habit of running through you the entire slide deck once again before I conclude. So these are the core aspects which I will quickly summarize in the next 5 minutes in a power pack mode. So even if you have missed something until now, I want your higher attention. Please pay 5 minutes of attention so that you will be able to take 1 or 2 things out of my personal experience. Again, as an entrepreneur, I'm really proud to present it. So I want you to pardon my, I would say, intensity or the usage of certain terms, but I'm excited to share this. Normally, this is the kind of excitement I share it with students. So this is coming from my heart. So that is why I've been very particular about what I'm saying, and I'm very sure about what I'm saying. So this is the reason. So in the next 5 minutes, I'll quickly take you through the entire slide deck, which will help you to summarize everything in your mind. So my idea is to create a framework in your mind before we leave. Okay. So this is where we have started. First is, I'm giving you 30 seconds to pay higher attention to the next 5 minutes. So number 1, we are talking about creating mentorship-led firms, or we are talking about creating mentorship-led culture in CA firms. What is the objective? We want to grow your firm. Okay. The objective is, how do we grow a CA firm? Growth is possible only when there are more people like you. Okay. Growth is possible only when there are more leaders like you. So how are leaders created? Only when the leaders themselves create a culture of learning. This culture of learning is best done using organic mentorship, which is a lot better than the traditional coaching and other external systems. Okay, this is why we are doing this. I hope this is clear. Next, we looked at the objectives, why mentorship is critical, and how do you imbibe a 3-layer framework so that you need not spend extra time. When I mentioned this, adding a second layer of mentors. You can become the leader, you are training the mentors with minimal time, and mentors will take care of the learners or the mentees. And the structure I showed you, a scalable structure which most of the consulting firms, the best of the consulting firms use across the world, the 4-layer structure, and how we can translate into 3-layer or 4-layer for your home firm. This is exactly the objective. Now, why are we doing this? It is not just a charitative or noble gesture. It is the biggest growth accelerator for any firm. And the three clear benefits are your top level talent would not leave, and you can build quick scalability. The better the team, the faster the firm can grow, and it creates the leaders, which will increase the value perception of the firm. The more leaders at the top level, the value perception will significantly increase, which will get you better paying clients and higher revenue. And why is this not happening? Because of some misconceptions that I don't have time and mentees feel I'm directionless. So the firm remains stuck at the same level because of lack of talent, not because of lack of clients. Please understand, lack of talent is a bigger problem than lack of clients. So it is more of a supply side problem than a demand side problem. It is convenient to believe the other way around, but I've seen how firms grew faster by focusing on the internal reconstruction. Now, coming to this aspect, what exactly or how are we defining this mentorship? Number one, there is an experienced person, even if he has a skill level of 9, if we can translate to somebody a skill level of 8, in both the spheres, personal sphere and professional sphere, it is mentorship. Why did I use the term personally? Because there are emotional and psychological barriers to learning. So you also have to tap the personality side of the individual so that he will be able to grow professionally. You cannot bypass the personality to grow professionally. That is why we are talking about it. Next, it is not done in a conventional classroom method or in a traditional method. It has to happen through life-to-life transfer of wisdom. This is a very important role. It has to happen in the most organic manner. How would you, the best mentors which somebody can know is mother and father. How would they groom a baby together? So that is how fundamental and how organic the mentor should be. But having said this, there has to be a clear-cut and tangible goal for this to happen. Otherwise, the firm will not be willing to invest the resources. Now, coming to the learning aspect, why are we talking about learning through mentorship only? Why not lectures? Why not sessions? Why not coaches? Why not classes? The reason being, none of the passive learning methods work for any reason. They just don't work at all. The only effective way of learning is by teaching others, which is active learning, which is produced by doing or by teaching others. So that is the reason why both the mentor and the mentee will be in a win-win relation when you constantly engage, because the moment you teach, you'll remember it forever. It becomes a concept in your mind. As a teacher, you learn more than as a student. Now, this is a practical example because I showed this initially to get your trust on the aspect of mentorship. Now, this is from the government side. This is from the result side. Somebody who failed for 6 years still was able to clear in one attempt because of the same method. Now, what exactly is the method? I've further broken down. There has to be a personalization aspect. It has to be done at a 1-to-1 level or 1-to-1, 1:3, very personalized attention. This is one. And there has to be an intensive environment. There has to be a playground in which the mentorship would happen. So the environment is very important. It is not holistic enough if there is only at the people level. 2 people around an environment. The environment is extremely important. And the process should be measured so that what cannot be measured cannot be improved. So if you have this fundamentals of planning at a personal level, implementation through an environment, and improvement continuously, it works. And the reason why we are once again doing it is learning can improve the revenue for the organization. So learning is linked to the earning part, and learning can be done better when you remove the barriers of feeling and thinking. What do I mean by barriers of feeling and thinking? The SAT framework, if any of the younger resources, especially the older generation, is significantly matured and they are able to deal it better, but the younger generation, maybe because of guidance, lack of guidance, or because of the turbulent situation which is happening across the world, in a VUCA world, they're going through one or more or all of this in a very deeper format. This is the truth. I'm not talking about it as a fancy term which some actors and actors are using. This is real. This is as real as it gets. It's only a matter of time. It is more real than AI. I'm telling you, SAD is more real than AI. It is going to be a bigger and more fundamental problem than any other problem on the planet. External wars happen, but internal wars, everybody are fighting a war within themselves. So when you're wanting to build a team which is going to stay with you for the next few years, it is important to address them because they look up to you, because they spend 60 to 70% of their active time in a day and the most productive years with the firm. It is important that you solve them. Otherwise, they cannot bypass their emotional barriers to learn. Now, coming to the last aspect, how do you drill down this model and fit into an equation which can be implementable in your firm. So for a CA firm, I believe the consulting model is the best way to do it because it is simpler. When there are multiple layers, when there are random structures, it is very hard for anybody to work upon the mentoring aspect. So that is why we are sticking to a very simple framework in 3 to 4 layers. So here, what exactly is the objective? For example, an article clerk capability should be able to match the capability of a freshly hired chartered accountant in year 2. Then what happens with this? You are getting the work quality of 12 lakh per year by paying probably 2 lakhs per year. This is leverage. If you pay 2 lakhs and get the work quality of 2 lakhs, where is leverage? If you do this resource where you pay 2 lakhs will come back and join you again because they love the learning journey. Everybody wants to play the long-term game. So that is the reason why it is important for you to level up, one level up at least. I think that's the reason why we keep talking about level up from wherever they are, one extra level up within the existing level. So people who are supposed to stay in level 1 for 1 year, see if you can get a level up to level 2. Who can do this? Only the level 2 people. Who want to reach level 3, they have to bring somebody from level 1 here, they can go up. So that is the last slide which you are seeing. And in terms of the reason, this should be the objective of the firm where you are looking at how can you increase the average revenue per employee. You can have significant revenues with good number of employees, or the revenue per employee can be done 3 to 4 times because of making sure they learn faster and quicker in a particular track guided by the senior. So you should assume the capability of the learner, leader, so that you can scale without getting into the day-to-day aspect of mentoring every single person in the organization. So please create a 3-step structure or a 2-step structure below you, where the learner constantly gets guidance from a level above them, and you can oversee the entire process. And in terms of the types, one is the technical mentorship, which most of you are already good at, and next is the behavioral mentorship, which is linked to the personality aspect of it. And finally, this is the career mentorship, which is the extreme important aspect because they should be able to see the path forward. And finally, why or how can this be installed? For sure, by creating this teach to lead. Only whenever who wants to get promoted, they should replace their own position by grooming them in advance. So you're not threatened by somebody leaving or somebody trying to level up, and there are always a layer of leaders which are there with you. So this is what I have for today. And this is CA Himakant Andavarapu signing off, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session. So we have few questions received from the members. First question is from Girish, sir. Is our CA becoming too technical? Do you think chartered accountants sometimes focus so much on technical expertise that they neglect curiosity about business, markets, and client industries? How we can balance the two? Sir. So your voice is on mute.
Please let me know if this is better.
Yes, it's audible. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it's a very, very relevant question. And I think the choice of the topic for the entire series itself answers that question. It's about having a mindset change. Now, CA, as a CA, I'm proud to be extremely technical in my approach to work, right? That is my bread and butter. Those are my basic tools of trade. But CAs traditionally also have been advisors. And to be an advisor, you need to be a generalist. You need to know, you need to understand the context. So I think that mindset shift from being a pure service delivery partner to an advisor requires us to build general outlook towards everything in life.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we have next question asked from Himakant, sir. If CA firms want to scale sustainably, they must create a future partners. What specific mentoring practice help in identifying and grooming the next generation of leaders within the firm?
This is a very good question. In the mid of the session, I have clearly told you every firm should focus on a particular problem statement. Your firm should identify a problem statement for a specific set of clients, which is creating an USP, which is unique, rare, and valuable for the set of clients. So depending on the problem statement which your firm is solving, where you get the highest growth in terms of your time or where you get the highest revenue, there should be more than one or two partners who are specializing in that. Scale what is already accepted, scale what is already profitable, scale what is already working. So scale the cash cows. So you should be able to have metrics in that regard to know what exactly is the most premium problem you're solving for your clients. That sets the direction. So the earning sets the direction of the learning significantly.
Thank you so much, sir. So as we come to the conclusion of this insightful webinar, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the leadership of the ICI and SAFA bodies, our distinguished speakers, all the members and participants who join us today. As we have more than 1100 members who have joined, including 140 members from SAFA members body. Today's session highlighted an important truth. The future of professional practice will not only define by knowledge but also by the mindset. That is very important. The mindset that is curious, collaborative, technologically enabled, and mentorship driven. If we nurture such cultures within our firms, we have not only built stronger practices but also shaped the future of our profession. On the behalf of member in practice committee of the ICAI, I thanks to all of you for your participation. We look forward to your continuous engagement in our upcoming sessions and knowledge initiative. Wishing you all a wonderful evening. Thank you and stay inspired. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much to all the.
Jai Hind, Namaste.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.